Well, President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa has extended the COVID-19 lockdown by another 2 weeks as cases increase in the country. The president said schools would remain closed and night curfew would remain. Well, the sale of alcohol remains prohibited and mass gatherings are still not allowed. Restaurants have, however, been allowed to reopen with strict social distancing rules, and some gyms have also been allowed to reopen in the adjusted level 4 lockdown rules. The president said the government will extend the COVID relief fund to benefit more businesses affected by the lockdown.
And now joining us live from South Africa to speak more on these developments, Arise correspondent Mxolisi Masango. Mxolisi, glad to have you join us. Let's start with the action of the President Ramaphosa extending the lockdown by 2 weeks. How serious indeed is this increase in COVID cases in South Africa?
Well, Ndi, I can tell you right now that the health system of the country is under immense pressure, and that is after, of course, the address by the President of the Republic. President Cyril Ramaphosa yesterday came out to say that he had initially set out the level 4 to be effective for 14 days, but upon review with the Central Command team on COVID-19, he's felt that it is very important right now that the country be placed still on a lockdown level 4. This is at the time where the country has about 2.2 million confirmed active cases of COVID-19, about 4.3 million deaths so far that we have in the country, and that's about an average of about 54 deaths or cases per day that we're seeing in the country, which is why the president decided that it was critical that this is at a time where the country is in the face of the third wave of infections of that very strong Delta variant that we're seeing in parts of the country here in Gauteng, with, of course, Gauteng being the leader of the pack with the most infections, which is where we also saw some of the looting taking place today, which is why the president took the time this evening when he laid out his address to say that it is very unfortunate that we're seeing South Africans who are running amok on the streets right now when the country is grappling with the third wave of COVID-19 infections in the country, which is subsequently slowed down some of the vaccination that has been happening across the country.
So this is made even more complicated with riots following Jacob Zuma's sentencing to a 15-month jail term for contempt of court. Tell us more about these riots and how the authorities are responding.
Wow, I can tell you today has been such an exhausting day where we've seen the country being grappled by violence, that we've seen looting with some stores actually closing, businessmen being brought to their knees when they can't really operate. Now, as you've rightfully mentioned, these protests have come out in light of the former president Jacob Zuma being sentenced by the highest court in the land, the Constitutional Court, to 15 months in prison for contempt of court. This is because he refused to come before the state of capture inquiry, which is probing allegations of bribery as well as misuse of government funds, which ran into billions of rands. So President Jacob Zuma was ordered to spend about 15 months in prison. Today, just before we had this conversation, we've heard some of these lawyers who went back to petition to the court to say that they want the sentence overturned. They want Zuma out of prison because they feel that the judges were not fair to him. The judges did not really exercise and look at the Constitution. They feel that the ruling that was put down to give him 15 months in prison was illegal, and it trampled on Jacob Zuma's rights as enshrined in the Constitution. So right now, judgment in that case has been reserved. We're expecting a decision in the next few days to find out whether the judges of the Constitutional Court will be listening to Zuma's lawyers who say he must be pardoned, he must be released from prison, or some of the lawyers on the other side who are petitioning for the, of course, state capture inquiry, who are saying, no, he's supposed to be behind bars because there are many occasions which is shown that he has no regard for the law, has no regard for the Constitution of the country, which is why he's supposed to be spending 15 months in prison. South Africans are now running amok. We've seen people dying, The body count is now at 6. Today, I had the opportunity to go through some parts of Johannesburg where it resembles a ghost town. Most shops are closed. Bodies, we saw one young man who was also injured severely there, struggling to stand up. So it was really a grim picture that was painted in some parts of Johannesburg today. I'm not even going to go to KZN because we're seeing there right now people looting morgues, taking coffins and strewing them across the road. We've seen them, of course, looting warehouses where alcohol is being stored. As you know, that level lockdown 4 does not permit for alcohol sales. South Africans went in there, looted, took alcohol to say they're thirsty, they're a depressed country, they are jobless, so they will be going to loot, to go for bread, to go for food, to go for some of the essentials that they cannot afford as South Africans right now. So I can tell you it's a balance of having poor South Africans on the other hand, and that element of criminality that President Cyril Ramaphosa has spoken about this evening by saying that he's going to be deploying members of the military to come and assist with the protests that we're seeing in the country.
Exactly what I was going to ask you about, how the security agencies have been coping with this state of affairs. But let me take you back to the issue of COVID in Mxolisi. Restaurants and gyms are allowed to open, and this is just at level 4 lockdown. How will they be monitored, to make sure that they don't flout the rules?
It's pretty much go as you see. I can tell you right now, I've had conversations on end with some restaurant owners who come out to say they're trying to balance and strike a perfect balance between livelihoods and saving lives at the same time to ensure that people are safe while also trying to make a livelihood. If you are aware, here in South Africa, the liquor industry is one of the big money spinners for the country. Hence, the restaurant as well as the hospitality industry thrives on the beverages and alcohol that is being sold on these establishments. Some of the restaurant owners have said no one is really here to really monitor whether or not we're complying with lockdown level 4 regulations. Some of them even blatantly saying that they serve alcohol in teacups as well as in those little kettles that you're able to put in your tea in. They've reserved to put in some alcohol sometimes in those little kettles, saying that it's those, if they get caught, they get caught. But what they're trying to do, their primary interest is to make sure that their patrons are satisfied, their patrons are happy, so they can come back, so they can pay, so they can put food on the table for their families. So it is that right now to say that you have a government on one hand that is really trying to curb the infection rates, seeing that the country is now at the height of the 3rd wave of this very powerful Delta variant of COVID-19. On the other hand, you have the restaurant as well as the hospitality sector saying that they need to strike a perfect balance between providing food for their families and saying that if push comes to shove, they will, of course, flout those rules that have been placed as COVID protocols by government.
Mxolisi Masango joining us there.